So welcome to this session. We were in fifth module discussing about clustering. We understood what is clustering. We also understood how clustering is different from classification. Also in the previous sessions, we discussed about different types of clusters. So continuing with that session, we will start with the next topic. The next topic is the k-means cluster. So this is a mechanism, this is an algorithm for creating clusters. Please try to remember. In this module, we try to study what is a cluster. Also, we are into different algorithms which can help us create the required clusters. So one of the algorithms have been taken for discussion. So that is K-means algorithm. So we are discussing K-means clustering algorithm. You can see the hierarchical tree structure in this representation. So we need to understand where exactly K-means fits in this hierarchy. Okay. So at the topmost, you can see the clustering. So in the next level, you can see the different classes into which you can divide the clustering algorithms. One is hierarchical clustering. The second one is partitional clustering. Okay, so we can divide clustering algorithms into two categories or classes: hierarchical and partitional. Hierarchical can be further divided into agglomerative and divisive, and partitional clustering can be divided into k-means and fuzzy c-means. Now, what is hierarchical clustering? What is partitional clustering? What is agglomerative clustering? We will discuss in the later part of the discussion. So now, as of now, the point that needs to be conveyed here is the k-means algorithm that is under discussion or that is under consideration. Okay, so it's coming under partitional clustering, okay, which is a type of or which is a way of clustering, creating clusters with your available data set. Okay, so that is what you need to understand at this point of time. Okay, so what is hierarchical? What do you exactly mean by partition clustering? So it's related content we will discuss in the next session. So now the topic under discussion is k-means. So what exactly K represents? So K is the number of clusters which you will be specifying. For example, if you give K equal to 2, so the algorithm will create 2 clusters for you. If you give K equal to 4, the algorithm will create 4 clusters. So the value of K is a variable. Okay, so depending on how many clusters you want, you can specify the value of K appropriately. And one more point you should note here, a single data object cannot belong to more than one cluster. A data object cannot be shared by more than one cluster, except there is one exception in fuzzy. Okay, so fuzzy C-means clustering, it can happen. So now one more concept that you need to revisit is the concept of measuring the distance between two data points. Okay, for example, I have a set of data points. Okay, I've marked it here on the screen. You can see I have some set of data points. Okay, so how much near or how much far apart the data points are decided by this distance measurement. And please note, distance measurement is not placing a ruler scale here and measuring what is the exact distance, maybe in centimeters or inches. So distance measurement in this context is trying to understand how one single data point is related to another. Okay. So for example, if this data point, okay, if this data point is related to this one, okay, if these two data points are related to one another, the distance will be short. Okay. And if two data points are not closely related, so they will have a very larger distance. The distance will be large. So that is what you need to understand, and that is the context. Once again, I'm repeating, clustering algorithms use distance measurement to decide on how a data point is related to a different data point. And this will help us decide on to which cluster a data point should be added. Okay. Now, what are the different ways in which you can measure the distance? As I already told you, we'll not be using any ruler scale here. Okay, so many ways are there, starting with the Euclidean distance, which we had already explored in the nearest neighbor algorithm, the Manhattan distance, okay, so squared Euclidean distance, cosine distance. These are few mechanisms that are available to measure the distance. The popular one is the Euclidean distance, which we have already explored. Now we will continue our discussion with the k-means, considering the value of k equal to 2. What does it mean? What exactly the algorithm will do? So if you specify k equal to 2, you are telling the algorithm that create two clusters from the available data points. So there may be 50 data points, there may be 100 data points, there may be 1000 data points. Okay, you are telling the algorithm create two clusters from the available data points. Okay, how the algorithm is working. Okay, you can see some few steps that have been explained here. So the algorithm creates two centroids. Okay, two centroids are created. What is a centroid? It was already explained in the previous discussion. Now it is created, okay, randomly. Please note this. In step one, the centroid is created randomly. Okay, but we will anyhow demonstrate that in the example. And this centroid that is created will be assumed to be the center of each cluster. We will explore it. Okay, we'll explore it further. So instead of this theoretical discussion, I'll directly go to the example. This would be more appropriate. Okay. Consider you had some 10 data points. So as marked here, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 up to P10. So now I have 10 data points in hand. I'll give this to the algorithm. What the algorithm should do from these 10 data points, it should create two clusters. Now, how the algorithm understood it should create two clusters? Because you have given the value of k as 2. So it's a message to the algorithm that create two clusters. Now in my example, I have 10 data points. As explained in the above statement, the first thing the algorithm will do is it will randomly mark two centroids. Okay, in my example, you can see somewhere randomly it has marked C1, and in one more random point it has marked C2. So two random points have been marked by the algorithm. Once again, I'm repeating, these are random points. No computations have been done to determine the exact location where it should be placed. Once done with it, the next task is the algorithm should decide whether a specific point should go with C1 or C2. Okay. Once again, how it is done. Now the algorithm will measure the distance of each point with C1 and also C2. So whichever is a shorter distance, so the point will be associated with that specific centroid. Okay. Here C1 and C2 is a centroid. Okay. For example, in the first instance, the algorithm will take the point P1. It will measure the distance between P1 and C1 and P1 to C2. This distance will be measured. Okay. Now, so as obviously visible, P1 is closer to C1, meaning that closely related. P1 is closely related to C1 compared to C2. So now the algorithm will decide that P1 should be associated with C1. Now the algorithm will go to P2, the next data point. So it will check the distance between P2 and C1, P2 and C2. Same thing repeats. Okay. So the shorter distance will be taken into consideration, and the point will be part of that centroid. Okay. So this will iteratively repeat for all the data points. Okay. So 10 data points are like 10 iterations, 50 data points, 50 iterations. So finally, the data points will either be associated with C1, that is the first centroid, or C2. So if you had given k equal to 3, then maybe one more centroid would have been marked C3. And also the distance of P1 would be computed with C1, C2 and C3. So this should have this would have happened. Okay. But since r k equal to 2, only two centroids. So after the first cycle, the algorithm has computed the distance of each and every data point with the centroid and finally decided to which centroid the point to be associated. Okay. I've just taken an example where you can see P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 has been associated with C1. Okay. So I'll call it as this as a one group. Okay. This is one group where maybe C1 is the determining factor. This is one more group, group 2, where C2 is a factor that determines the points being placed into that group. Okay, so totally I have two groups. Once again, I'm reiterating two groups because you had given the input to the algorithm as k equal to 2, meaning that you have told the algorithm to create two clusters. So we have completed with the first pass. Next, in the next pass, what the algorithm will do. Okay. Now, the algorithm will recompute the centroid. Repeating, the algorithm will recompute the centroid. Okay, in the previous pass, this was the position of the centroid, and it was randomly chosen. But in the second pass, it will not be random. Okay, in the second pass, computation will be done to determine the position of the centroid. So, what computation is happening? So, what is the centroid? How to calculate it? Okay. So all the points will be taken into consideration, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. Okay. So the position of all the points divided by number of points. Okay. So that will yield the new position. Okay. The new centroid. So in the first pass, this is where the centroid was sitting and this position was chosen randomly. And in the second pass, the points P1 to P5 have determined the new centroid and in this location. Okay. There's a new location where you can see the centroid. The same happens in cluster B, the second cluster also. Okay, so this was C2 in this location was the randomly chosen one in pass 1. So this is a new location. And how this new location was computed, location of C2. Please note it was not random. You've taken the points P6 plus P7 plus P8 plus P9 plus P10 divided by 5. Okay. So it is somewhat like an average of all the points, and we got this location C2, which is the centroid. So what has happened in the second pass? Second pass of the algorithm. So new centroids have been recomputed. Okay, so the position of the old centroid, which was computed in pass 1, has changed to a new position. Reallocation of centroids. So that is what we can see. Reallocation. So the position of the centroid has been recalculated, which is nothing but the average of the points within the cluster. So this has been done.